Okay, we've got Nick from Kairos Contracting here. Nick, why don't you tell us a little bit about your business that you've got?
Sure. My name's Nick. My company name is Kairos Contracting, and I've been in drywall now for about 5 years, and mostly doing sub work. But obviously, as I got into the mentorship, being growing in my other aspects and expanding my drywall company and structuring it. And so, yeah, that's a little bit of me. I do insulation services, drywall services, taping, and yeah, that's.
And how many guys do you have?
Currently right now, close to 20 guys. I mean, it fluctuates a little bit based on season, as you might know, but we actually ended 2023 at the time with 24 guys on our team, and it dipped a little bit. It was a slow season, but things are getting back up, and so team's growing again, and obviously we're looking to continue hiring.
Nice. That's a good size.
Yeah.
So let's you went through the Drywall CEO Academy. We worked together for like 3 months. Let's kind of go through some of the things that we went through in that program. When we first started, we went over some problems that you were facing in your business. So let's go through that. The first problem that you said you had were not having systems and processes in the business. So what kind of impact was that having on your business, and maybe even having on you personally?
I mean, it was a huge impact, because I think to sustain any kind of growth, we need to have a strong foundation. And I think that's what lacked for me in my company, right? I was the hands-on guy. Like, I can do drywall, I can do insulation, I can do taping, and sure, that's great. But how can I get from point A to point B and expand that to a point where I'm hiring people, I'm growing the company, profiting more, bringing in more revenue. And for that, I needed to put these systems and processes in place in my company, which I didn't have. And you know what? I thought, what better way to figure that out than keep banging my head against the wall than to hire somebody and a service that's going to actually help me to understand what these systems and processes are. Somebody who actually went through it, and somebody who's had to put them in place and learn from their mistakes. And so that's been a huge impact, even on my personal life. That means I've delegated a lot of these operational tasks onto people, onto third-party services that I've hired, and I'm now able to actually focus on growing the business rather than just kind of keeping it afloat.
That's good. That's fantastic. So that's a big weight off your shoulders. I know that was one of the things that was like a big deal when you came in. It was like you're great at running. Maybe the biggest, because you know what, you're great at running jobs, but it was like all that office stuff. Like, so many of us drywall contractors ignore that stuff, and we don't do the admin work that we need to do, and like that can really hurt us down the road, right?
For sure.
So that's great. So the next problem you were having was getting your own private leads, like for private jobs, because typically you're a subcontractor for other drywall companies, but you wanted to get away from that. So what was the impact of not having your own private leads and having to sub from drywall companies all the time?
Right. I mean, I would obviously always be subject to whatever their terms were. Right. And so I had no say in how things go, in pricing, and all these things. Sure, I would be able to negotiate here and there a little bit, but they have their fixed rates, they have their prices. And so, theirs is the last word. And obviously it's a much smaller profit margin, and my desire to have, to generate and have a proper approach to these private leads would be so that I wasn't just, relying on some of these bigger contracting companies to keep feeding me, but I would go and I would have my own work. I'd price my own jobs, and I'd, state the terms in accordance with the client. And so that's where it was for me. I think I've never had a problem. Well, I haven't had a problem in the past few years in terms of approaching new clients, but what is actually the best way of approaching these clients without wasting time, right? Without just doing what you think is the right thing to do. And like I said, learning from somebody who has the experience over 25 years is definitely a better way to go than trying to figure it out on my own.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's how I kind of had to figure it out. But that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now, so that I can help other people like yourself not go through the heartache and like all the terrible things I went through, and do it the right way the first time. So that's good. Your third problem was being able to hire more manpower, because you struggled with hiring manpower. Sometimes you'd have to scale up quickly. How is that impacting you being able to take on more work and fulfill what you did take on?
Yeah, I think it goes back again to some of the systems and processes that we put in place, and having these hiring processes and these filters to kind of see what we need and where we're at, and based on the scale of the job. It's helped me to actually structure things in a way that I'm now prioritizing building this network, and I have the systems in place to actually sustain bringing in somebody real quick, bringing in labor fast to be able to fulfill that demand for a job that just showed up, or somebody reached out, hey, I have this building, can you take care of it? Can you do the drywall insulation in this building? And maybe in the past I'd be like, no, not really, I don't have the manpower for this. But today I would look at it and be like, yeah, give me a moment, like, of course I can definitely do it, and be able to reach out and get the guys and get the job done.
So it was definitely costing you business before, not being confident in your hiring process and being able to, commit to taking on certain projects.
For sure.
Okay, so those were three problems that you were having and kind of how they impacted your business. And that's, essentially why you reached out to me, because you wanted to solve these problems. So when we first started, you also came up with 3 goals, which kind of play into, the problems. Your first goal, you wanted to automate your operations. Like I said, we worked together for like 3 months. How do you feel with your operations now? And have we automated a bunch of, your admin tasks and business side of things tasks?
I've actually automated most of my tasks and operational tasks that I need to tackle, like with the business. I think for me, having to figure out what the solution to these problems on the go is so much harder than just having it, these systems and things in place that I can quickly, forward it to somebody. And I think in the mentorship, like, you provided so much resource for tackling these problems, for, estimating, for hiring processes, for even, checklists on jobs, on specific jobs. I think that's like huge ways to save more time and to not have to think about a solution for these problems every time it comes up.
That's what I was going to say, is it gets a lot of that stuff that I know you've got in your head, but like this way you can transfer it to other people and just get it out of your own head too, and like stop.
And it's standard, right?
Yes.
It's standard. So every time, like, I know that when somebody asks me this question, this is the procedure. This is the, this is company procedure, and so we follow that through. And that's worked great, because that's allowed me to once again be able to scale at a pace where these little things are not going to waste my time and not going to take up my time, and actually focusing on prospecting, on networking, on growing the business.
That's amazing. So it's definitely worked and been very helpful. That's good.
For sure.
The other thing that you had a goal of was payments and invoices, making all your payments, because you were like, you're sending e-transfers, you're doing all kinds of crazy things to make payments, and your invoicing wasn't the most, professional that it could be. So how have we impacted that?
So obviously, as you know, like through your referral, I've hired a full-time, bookkeeper for the company that takes care of all my tax needs, takes care of all my payments, payroll, invoice related tasks. And that's also taken a huge weight off my back. I was actually driving back from an event the other day, and I was thinking, like chief financial officers in companies, like, that's a huge, executive role that people dedicate their lives to. And the fact that, like, in a company, you're taking on those tasks on your own whilst juggling all the other things, like, it's impossible to sustain that long term, and it's impossible to grow your company in a way that you're going to be able to sustain these. And so finding these solutions in like the payments and automating like the invoice and structuring that in a professional way, it doesn't just show that I'm a company that can sustain this growth, but it also shows to the people, to the clients, right, that professionalism, that sense that, you know, I have the experience and the structure to back this growth.
Yeah. Okay. This one might be a little bit personal, but like when you first came, you were, you know, behind on taxes and payments and things like that, because like you said, you're not a CFO, right? And that is very typical of drywall contractors across the board, to not take care of that stuff, to get behind on their tax payments, not to file their taxes, you know, all those things. But you were pretty far behind, but did you get caught up in a fairly short period of time and automate all those processes? So now that moving forward, you're going to stay on top of it and feel very comfortable with it?
Yeah. I mean, let's be real, right? Like taxes are not something that they teach her in schools, right? Like taxes are not, you know, people go into like adult life facing all of these things. And I had no idea, right? How to face it, how to talk, where to start, where do I begin? And with the company growing, obviously, like you said, eventually got me backlogged. And I'm not embarrassed to say this, because it was actually a real struggle of mine. And, you know, I've caught up with these taxes. And I think 2025 is going to be a huge year, because now having these things in place, they're not in the back of my mind, constantly worrying, constantly thinking, man, I got to file this, HST, WSIB, corporate taxes, personal taxes, wife's taxes, you know, and
that
you have all this.
That must be a weight off your shoulders.
Yeah, 100%. Because now I can once again focus on what really matters, which is growing the business.
Yeah. We all know that, like, you know, doing the work is part of it. Doing the office stuff is part of it. Like, if you don't have the sales, there's nothing to do, right? Like, you need to be pushing those sales. Essentially, you're a salesman now. You're not a drywaller anymore. You never were an accountant. So we got to stop pretending to be one, right, as drywall contractors, and just worry on getting those sales and running our jobs, and leave all that stuff to somebody else and find an easy way to do that. So that's great, man. Very happy to hear that weight's been lifted off your shoulders, because that was a big one coming in. You know, it's scary stuff being in those situations, and you get calls from the tax agencies, and they're not always the nicest people. They're kind of aggressive, and you know, they scare the hell out of you. So good to have that
deadlines, and
good to have that off your shoulders. That's awesome. The third goal was to get more sales in the private sector, kind of like we talked about above, and stop subcontracting from drywall companies and being at their, you know, mercy and their beck and call. So how do you feel now, getting jobs in the private sector and getting your own leads and working with clients directly?
I think it's helped me in shifting my perspective, and I feel a lot more confident going into an approach with a client, because I have all these things. You know, I have this foundational base now to back myself up when I go to try and seek for a new lead. And so I have now not just the things that you told me, but practical resources that you gave me to kind of put this, you know, this prospect and new leads out there and get the results, man. I've been getting new leads, and now I can also have the confidence to take on these new leads and have a system and have, you know, an automated operational aspect of the business that's going to take care of all these things. And that's kind of what I was seeking. My biggest insecurity, I would say, with the private sector was that I didn't have this foundation to back it, and I feel like now I do.
Yeah, because just getting leads is only part of the battle, right? Like, if leads come in and you can't handle them, and you forget to call people back, if you don't have a good system to handle the leads coming in, and then a system to actually, you know, estimate the jobs accurately and present yourself professionally, like, you're not going to get the job anyways. And the jobs that you do get aren't going to be great, right? So, like, putting yourself out there as a professional, when people reach out to you, if you've got a great process of, you know, when a lead reaches out to you, that you respond to them appropriately, you get out there, you give them an estimate, and all that's professional, you're going to get much better jobs, right?
Yeah. So that's where I've been growing in my CRM kind of process with these clients. And I feel a lot more confident going into it now. I can definitely say that.
That's great. So tell me what's the plan for 2025? Where do you see yourself going now?
Man, I actually feel a lot more confident and optimistic on some of the goals that we set even at the beginning of the mentorship going into these. At the beginning, when we had our first like consultation meeting, when we had our first meeting at the mentorship, we put those goals and I said, crap, like it's the first meeting. I have no idea, these are great numbers and they look amazing, but how the heck am I going to get there?
Yeah.
And now I feel like, yeah, I can definitely see like these numbers. I can definitely see myself reaching some of these goals.
Yeah.
And so 2025, I believe, is going to be the biggest year until the next one for Kairos Contracting. I believe, that we're going to be, profitable. We'll have systems in place. Business is going to grow. I'm actually already looking to hire an admin for the business and to be taking care of some of these admin needs as we grow. And yeah, I think it's going to be a big year, man.
Yeah, as I discussed with everybody, an admin is like one of the best hires that you can make, and nobody ever wants to do that. They don't want to hire someone in the office because they don't feel that person's making the money because they're not putting up drywall, they're not finishing drywall or whatever. But like they take such a load off of your plate so that you can go out there, concentrate on those sales, concentrate on hiring good guys, and just running your jobs really well, which ends up making you 10 times more money than you pay them.
Sure.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it gives me precious time to do things that I also love to do.
Yes.
Right? To be with my family, to do the things that I do at my church, to do workout, to go travel, right? Like these systems give me that freedom. Like as we speak right now, it's a Friday. And like I told you, I'm at a conference right now.
Yeah.
So that's an awesome freedom that I get to have because of some of these systems that we put in place.
Yeah. Yeah. You wouldn't have been able to do that before because you're running around putting out fires and trying to fix things and just kind of running in chaos. Right now you've got a system, a process, a procedure. Your company kind of runs like a clock. And I'd like to say we were a big part in helping you achieve that. Yeah,
definitely were, man.
So what would you say to other people who are kind of on the fence or thinking about joining Drywall CEO Academy? What would you say to them?
I would say don't hesitate. This was actually my first mentorship, and it's opened my mind to the power of mentorships and to the power of these mentorship programs. And I think if you're a drywall contractor looking to grow, looking to get your hands off the tools, looking to be profitable, put systems in place for your company, I think Drywall CEO Academy is the way to go, man. Like he won't just tell you what to do. He will actually give you practical resources to follow through with some of these things that he's advising you on. And taking advice from somebody who's been in the business, obviously 25 plus years, like that's the kind of advice that you want to take. And so
awesome.
For me, it was worth it 100%. And
great.
Looking forward to other mentorships too, and other areas of my life that, it's opened my mind to grow into. So
that's awesome. Thanks for that, Nick. Great working with you. Wish you all the best for 2025. I can see, you're a young guy. I said that right from the start. Like you've already got a good thing going, and I can see big things coming for you. So super glad I was able to help you out along the way. And it definitely won't be the last time we work together, I'm sure. I'm sure I'll hear from you again because you're going to run into other roadblocks as you grow. And I know you're going to grow to a big level. So congrats to you and wish you all the best.
I appreciate it, man. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for, your availability and willingness and all the resource that you put out there. And yeah, it's good stuff, man. And I see Drywall CEO Academy growing into, big things for 2025. So
awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much, man.